really appreciate that. I know some of the people here. This is not my forte. But I'm here to introduce Art tonight. Art's an exceptionally skilled family and recovery coach who for the past 13 years has guided families and individuals through unique strategic interventions. And he actually adheres to a lot of the truths of Rotary. I mean, he deals with addiction with fairness. It's about service, it's about goodwill, and it's really about integrity. All the things that Rotary believes in. I mean, those are all the tenets of Rotary. He had 17 years of personal street-level experience in active addiction, and Art brings insight and expertise to the problems of drug usage, usually helping families and their loved ones find the way out of the woods and into long-term recovery. My family has been the recipient of Art's guidance when addiction showed up in my family 7 years ago. We were unprepared and we wandered through various programs without success until by good fortune or grace, we ended up at Battlefield, defeated and very skeptical. Art, you knew I was skeptical at first. And it was his ability to read a situation and treat each family with nuance that saved my son's life and saved my family, just as he did and has hundreds of others associated with Battlefield. His refusal to ever give up on an addict or their family has brought a strong following from diverse backgrounds, and his strategic approach for each situation, coupled with the wisdom of his own journey, has earned him great respect in the recovery community. He continues to attract attention from local and state officials, seeking guidance on the pervasive and growing issue of addiction. And I guess virtually everyone in this room has encountered addiction in a very personal way. And it's my honor to introduce Art, who might just make you look at addiction in just a different way. Thanks, Art.
I'm going to get up here and try not to get sued by any of you. And I'm not being billed for anything right now, am I?
We'll turn off the clock.
Yeah, please turn off your billing, sir. What are we going to say? Okay. Well, we started out as my wife, and I started out 17 years in addiction, got through my thing. When I ended up, I'm 37 years old. No job, no career, been using drugs on a street level for the past 7 years, hadn't worked in forever, and what do you do? So, for me, I thought about this thing about helping others, and it really wasn't about that. It was about kind of comeback story in my life and how I would do it. And so really quickly, I got into helping others by getting jobs for people and doing things like that. And I started a contracting company, and then I started a sober living company, and I grew pretty fast and had a lot of growth there and helped a lot of people. Then I had to actually figure out how to help people, and so we get into that. And along the way, I met my current wife, Angie, and there was a big need to bring in. So we had the addict side pretty covered. We were helping addicts, and I knew how to do that, and that was pretty clear. But there was a lot of knowledge that needed to be gained. And then met Ange, and we decided to bring in this family piece, or I knew I needed it. And so we started this thing called the Family First Approach. And what happened was, the way we work at Battlefield is that every single family comes to us first. I don't usually meet an addict until after I've worked with their family. So we begin to dismantle this person's addiction. We begin to cut off resources to it. We begin to intervene. We don't do the thing where we sit in the thing and make threats and say we're never going to talk to you if you use again. None of that stuff. But we do have a practical approach to each individual family's way. And if you give me a picture, I can see it, and I can figure out what needs to happen and how it needs to work. And eventually, I always say it's like Novocaine, just give it time, it always works. And we get that person into treatment, whether that's with us, because we do have a treatment program now, or whether that's with somebody else. And what we do is we stay with that family completely through the entire journey, through everything that happened, through every relapse, through every ups and downs, through all of it. We stick with that family. And as we did for years, we kept our head down at Battlefield for a long time and said, we're going to help one family at a time. We're just going to keep doing this. We get really in depth with our families. We're with families for years. Maybe take a year for their kid to get through the whole cycle and get independent. And our goal with any family is to get the addict to complete independence. So we haven't done our job until sobriety. It's nothing if we can't get a person to independence. And so we worked that whole thing. It then became clear around here that there was something going on. I noticed in about 2016, because I've been doing this since 2011 and I was an addict since 1994, I noticed this kind of, I called it a civil rights movement for drug addicts. And I thought it was kind of weird. I thought there was this real protective nature about how we protect people that are doing drugs, and we allow for them and we grant them passes, whether that's with their crimes or open air drug use or whatever it was. And I thought, wow, this isn't going to turn out well. This is kind of going the wrong direction here. I don't like this. There's a big lack of accountability. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. But it seemed as if you spoke out and said anything true, then you got hammered and called names or whatever it was. And especially if you're a business owner and then you said, hey, I don't want this person like doing drugs out on my sidewalk. Can we do something about that? Well, you're bad now somehow for saying that. And, you know, so it just became this thing where I was like, but I better keep quiet because I don't want to disqualify myself from helping families. And so I'll just zip it, you know, because I speak and, you know, I don't do very good at not getting canceled or whatever that is. So eventually it just became incumbent, kind of this like forced thing that we had to begin. And so we took our program to Vegas about a year and a half ago, and we did a year in Vegas just to kind of hide out and help families and help the addicts. And we had this community piece missing, and I was like itching to kind of get back here and go, you know, and I don't know if any of you know Andrea Suarez and We Heart Seattle, but she's a person that started doing, she came here a few times, but I know that she's done really great work, and she was a friend of mine, and I saw her kind of run the gauntlet of talking about these problems of housing first, the problems of harm reduction, and these things that were really causing problems in our state. And so we decided to come back and get really involved about 7 months ago in the community work. And by getting involved, what we decided that would mean is that we have to speak from the other side about this narrative that is happening. That somehow our state has thought that if you apply loving kindness to someone in active addiction, that's going to help them. And, you know, from our experience, it's just not true. When you apply loving kindness to somebody that's using drugs, you just kind of empower that behavior. And we've had a true empowerment of where it's almost, you know, there's a big push in our state to destigmatize drug addiction. I find that wrong. I think when people are behaving poorly, we should be able to say that's a poor behavior and we don't want people to do it. And so, you know, that's, to us, it was, to me, at the simultaneous when we're destigmatizing fentanyl use and heroin use, we were stigmatizing smoking. So it was very odd to me that you could walk out of a restaurant and if you see somebody smoking, you're supposed to go, ooh, get away. Go smoke over there, 10 feet away. But if somebody's doing fentanyl, you're supposed to go, and just let them do it. And I think stigma is the reason why I quit doing drugs. I think having it be a bad behavior and having people hold me accountable is the reason that I'm sober today. And so we want to push an accountability narrative, and we want to say that whether it's their fault or not that they're a drug addict, the medicine is still the same. It's still accountability. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It doesn't matter any of this stuff. So for us, our work right now, we just interviewed Riker, we interviewed Mark Mullet, we interviewed Raul Garcia. We do this thing called In the Hot Seat back at our place in Kent, and we're putting these politicians, and I don't put much stock in any of them, but we're trying to educate them. And we're not trying to be educated by them. We're trying to say, listen, you guys obviously don't really know what you're doing. And you're causing a lot of harm, and you're embellishing this thing. There's a true empowerment where it's unlike anything I've ever seen, where someone smoking drugs openly feels justified in doing that, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. It's wrong to have kids see it. It's wrong to have families see it. It's wrong for business. And for me, I've always been a big proponent of, if you protect business and you protect families, you will also solve addiction if you're on the right side. You see, just like from my experience, whenever I protect a baby from the mother that's using drugs, I actually help the mother. And if I don't protect the baby and I just let the mother see the baby, then I hurt the baby. And so for me, it's just been a lot of getting out there now, and it's scary. It's honestly scary for me as a person saying complete truth to people, like we should arrest people that are committing crimes, and then have somebody tell me no, it's harmful. It's very odd. And I say, with addiction, they'll always say things like, you can't arrest your way out of addiction. You'll hear that all the time. We're not arresting people because they're an addict. We're arresting people because they committed a crime. You can arrest your way out of crime. In fact, that's the only real measure that we've ever been able to take that actually solves crime. It's the first time that we're determining whether arresting someone helps them. In no other world do we try to determine whether if we arrest, does that help the individual. We don't have a car thief ring. We don't have a guy committing corporate espionage or corporate fraud. And we don't go, well, does arresting him help him? We don't do that. So it's a really odd thing that we've pushed this. See, what happened in about 2016 is that they changed the language. So for me, I'm a drug addict. That's what I am. In fact, I was proud of it. 17 years I spent shooting heroin, smoking crack cocaine. That was my identity. I'm a drug addict. That's what I am. And when I go to a meeting, I raise my hand and I say, Art, my name is Art, I'm a drug addict. That's what I say. And somebody came along and said, no. Don't call them addicts anymore. They're people with a substance use disorder. And for me, I was offended because I wasn't 17 years with a person as a substance use disorder that I was a victim. I was a perpetrator. And all the guys I know that I help are all perpetrators. None of us are victims. And so for me, there became this thing where, who gave you the right to do that? But see, changing the language to people with a substance use disorder says to me, not their fault. It's fine if it ain't their fault. That's fine. And if somebody overdoses and dies and they go on and you say, man, it wasn't their fault. I agree. But see, the only cure for the only way a human gets better is you show me one human being that doesn't get better through responsibility. That's how you get better. So I get people that come to me and they ain't even responsible for their own toothbrush, for their own underwear, for their own eyeglasses, for their own clothes. And I have to, one responsibility at a time, we have to help this person grow. And we don't help in perpetuity. We help in a way that says, see, that's the thing that we need to decide in this state when we're talking about helping drug addicts and helping homeless. What does help mean? What does it mean to help someone? If somebody is getting high on fentanyl and they're still getting high on fentanyl, how did you help them? Please help me get that straight, you see? So I don't think we're helping, and I think it's because we don't understand the definition of helping. And to clarify, helping somebody means their life improves the responsibility. And there's got to be somewhere along the line with all these people on the street that are using drugs, if they ever get better, guaranteed there's going to be one person in their life or several people in their life that are holding them accountable. And that will be the period of time that they get better. They'll hold them accountable for waking up, making their bed, changing their life. There will be people that do it. And us people that are doing it are seeing the people that are helping right now are making it harder and harder every day to do that. Because more and more they're ingrained as a victim, more and more. See, at the same time when they said it was substance use disorder, they also came out and said addiction is caused by trauma. Okay. True or not true? I don't know. But I do know one thing. I've seen addicts that have been traumatized. I've seen addicts that haven't. I also can tell you I got 11 men and women in my program right now, and if you put their childhood story up against all of yours, it'll look the exact same. And for me, I think the cause of addiction happens to be drugs. That's the common tie that binds everyone that I know that's a drug addict. And I think we have a supply problem here. And I think none of us grew up as fentanyl addicts, and none of our friends were fentanyl addicts because there was no fentanyl. Yeah. And I think if we don't get the supply out of here and start holding people accountable, it's not going to get any better. And if we bring 10,000 pounds of fentanyl into this state, 10,000 pounds will get smoked. And the problems will remain, and it doesn't matter how many nonprofit battlefield addictions, how many treatment centers you do, because you're bailing water. And as we're trying to help one drug addict, 3 more are being created right now in our schools, in our junior highs, and everywhere. And there is really no answer to that until someone says we gotta keep the drugs out of here. So that's our work right now. We work very intimately. My wife Angie, Bill, Tiffany, this team of people, we're working constantly with families. We do a Tuesday night family group, and we're doing that kind of work where we're holding families and reconnecting them and healing from everything that's happened. We're working with addicts, but our focus right now is said, well, really on the aggregate, we're just bailing water. So we need to get this community straight and get business tied in. And I want business to speak up and say, hey, this is hard for us to do business in this kind of climate. We don't like it. And people should be able to say that. We actually don't like people doing drugs on our street. Don't care what the deal is. We don't like it. We want it to stop. And I think I speak for the people, because what are you gonna do? Tell me that I don't like them? Tell me that I hate drug addicts? You know, so that's kind of why we begin to start speaking out more and more on social media, on everywhere we are, and talk to these politicians and try to get the people elected that we think will hold people accountable and get rid of these terrible, Kirkland has the new thing in Kirkland was the new crisis center they put in Kirkland. So they got a place where if you're in crisis, you can go there and get a sandwich and get a shower and take some time off and be off the streets. And everyone praises things like that, except that's like a pit stop. That's like saying, we want you to keep getting high, just come in and rest a little bit first and fuel up. And then, because we gotta have teeth. If someone comes into a place like that, there's gotta be some leverage to get them to commit to treatment. And we gotta have leverage, and we gotta be able to get people to commit, because they're not able to do it on their own. So I've been there, and I thank God for the people that held me accountable. And this myth out there that an addict will change when they're ready, no, not true. An addict will never do what you ask them to do. They will do what they are required to do. So when you require more of people, they'll change. But if you think people are just gonna change just because when they can go steal whatever they want, buy drugs for a cheap price, act however they want, you think they're just gonna decide one day to change, then you've never had an addict in your family. Because they're trying to say that you could just let them live in your house and they would just change one day. You could just let them live in your basement and buy them drugs and buy them pipes, and then one day they're just gonna come up and go, hey, Mom and Dad, I decided I want a different life. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna kill them. So that's the work we're doing. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. We're looking to always partner with businesses. I can always figure out a way we can help your business, and we can help integrate this stuff, so thank you.
Title of your company is certainly Battlefield. It certainly is appropriate.
I'll tell you what, they don't like it anymore. They say we got a bad title.
In our political climate,
Yeah.
in our state, it's like you really have a battle on your hands.
It's very bad.
And where do you get your financing for this?
We're a privately funded nonprofit. We take no government money. I believe in the private funding. I believe in free market and private funding to solve these problems. I do not believe in government funding to solve these problems.
Correct. And you said that you do some television, you do some work. How do you get the message out? I mean, this is pretty powerful.
Well, we're strictly, on our own grassroots social media stuff. So right now we're getting our videos out to about 3,000 or 4,000 local families at a time, but this is the first 6 months, this is the first time we've been getting out public.
Wow.
I used to just sit in the group room, families come in, we're just gonna help these families, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But it got to the point where I went, I can't keep my mouth shut no more. Someone's gotta talk. And so, it's outrageous what's going on.
It is.
And, when we roll down to this is what people don't like, but this is what I've seen, and that's when you boil it down, we have in any time addiction shows up in a family, you'll have 2 reactions. One of the reactions you'll have is anger and hatred. you'll have people that are pissed that say, screw that guy, let him do it on his own. He needs to figure it out on his own, cut off the money. So you'll have that. And then you'll have sympathy. And the people that sympathize and defend and protect, they end up becoming the enablers. And they end up becoming the codependents. And so codependency starts coming, and then this person needs their identity to keep going based upon the sickness of this person, you see, because they're the hero. And I see that kind of developing in our state, where we're almost a codependent state, where almost we're getting to the point where we need addiction to fuel the programs that don't solve addiction. So addiction really isn't a problem anymore, it's more of a solution for a lot of people. And if it becomes a solution for a lot of people, then we need it to continue so that we can keep funding these programs. And so it's a scary thing, you know.
So I have an office in Auburn, but I live up here, and a lot of attitudes up here is like, oh, that's stuff down in South King County, you know, Kent, Tukwila, Auburn, Tacoma, but is it prevalent, all this in Bellevue, Seattle, Kirkland?
Seattle's prevalent.
Seattle.
I think Bellevue and Kirkland done a good job. I think you should be very leery when they want to bring in a methadone clinic. I think you should be very leery when they want to bring in this stuff. It doesn't work. It's not successful. And when they say works, and the standard is I've kept someone alive. That's the standard. Well, it's better that they're alive. Well, that's a bad standard. When you could actually, if you worked a little harder, we could actually require them to be sober. And we could, because they're humans that are, see, for me, I look at anyone that's a drug addict and go, oh, dude, you can do it too. You're just like me. And I would never say you need this particular medication because you're different. I did opiates for 17 years. I did methadone for 10 years. So we all can do it. And but we've created these people telling them that there's no way they can do it now. And of course, getting worse.
I'm curious, so I just, on December 9th, it'll be 6 years since I lost my brother to a massive drug overdose.
Yeah.
He struggled with addiction for a long time. He was my older brother, my only sibling. He, smart guy, an attorney, very successful, kind of had it all, had all the resources, grew up in a good family, all that. So like, I'm a little jaded because I'm like, if he couldn't have gotten out of this, what hope there is there for other people? He'd gone through it all, 12-step, Betty Ford Clinic, all that stuff. I'm just curious, what is it that you offer, and what's the difference? I agree with all of what you're saying. I think I'm pissed off because I see kids, people out just walking on 3rd Avenue by the courthouse the other way. I can't take my kid to a Soundings game because out there people smoking drugs at a foil. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're enabling this. And I saw my brother. I talked to him about this. Like, it was really gritty, nasty stuff, right? And like addicts, it's a different world, right? I was exposed to a lot of that. I'm just like, I knew how hard it was for him, right? And he'd get sober and then be just, he'd relapse again, and again he flew too close to the sun. It was just, one day it was too much. Yeah. So, he would tell me about the 12-step, and somebody's like, dude, I think some of this is bullshit. I don't want to go through all this. It's very like faith-based. I'm not really into that. Curious what your approach is. How have you been successful where some of these other programs maybe have failed?
Well, the first thing I would tell you is that there's 3, and I'll go quick, there's 3 different bottoms a human being can hit. A human being can hit a financial bottom, meaning they can't withstand their habit anymore. They can't maintain it. They're experiencing too much pain. Like they lose their car, they lose their job, they lose their house. They don't have any money. They can't afford it anymore. A human being can also hit a health bottom. Their body fails. They're in a hospital. They can't keep it going anymore. They're about to lose a limb, and they go, I'm done. And then this person might say they're done. Your brother could have only experienced one bottom. So if your family would have come to me, I would have sat with you and I would have said, we need to push an emotional bottom for him. We need to surround him with the way that we act, and it would have been unique. I would have put it in a way that we could have said, what was his name?
Nate.
What pushes Nate's buttons? What is it that we can use as leverage from an emotional thing that we can go, Nate, as a family, we need this from you. We need this requirement, and we're gonna all hold true in this loving way. I call tough love an open heart while holding somebody accountable. Different than an angry heart while trying to hold somebody accountable. So we would have taught that first of all. Now, I'm not a 12-step program. I believe that what we need to teach people when they come out of this stuff is relationships. And what I teach is an open heart way to communicate and be in a relationship. So we need to teach him about his resentments. We need to teach him about why he's angry. We need to teach him about this overload. And then we would surround him with community. So we need community. And a lot of people don't like the 12-step community, and they don't like the Christian community, and they don't like this community. So we provide just a normal community. Hey, just come here, check in, see us. And we want business through this community. We want relationships through this community. And so we have a very strong community. So we need the community, and then you need the right teachings, in my opinion. You need someone to learn what they need to learn. For me, I had to learn how to handle pain. That's what I had to learn. I had to learn that I had this thing in my head that when pain got too great, I said F it and went and blew up my life. You see? And so what was that pain he was facing that he would do good, and then the blow up point, right? And we'd be working with you and your family and him all at the same time. And we wouldn't put it all on Nate. You know what I mean? We wouldn't say, you're destroying this entire family. We'd say, no, this is what this whole family needs to learn. We need to communicate with an open heart with each other. We need to understand. See, I teach blood pressure, basically. That's about it. Watch your blood pressure, man. Because if your blood pressure gets high, your heart closes, and then you start saying and doing things you don't want to do. So we start treating people with, and I just did a group the other day about there's no innocence. We're not innocent people. When our heart closes and we're against somebody and we start saying mean things and we start lashing out and we start doing that, we're not innocent. We're hurtful. And so teaching that family how to connect through that, through the teachings and stuff like that. But, I'm not saying, but also I would also say that Nate was in a very, very, very unique, tough predicament. Because it's tough when somebody can function really highly as a drug addict. It's tough. It's like a movie star trying to get sober. They're not going to run out of money. They're not going to ever, and only, Eminem got sober because he finally hit an emotional bottom where the spirit inside of him didn't get fixed by drugs anymore and is actually getting tormented more by his demons when he did drugs. That's what stopped him. But the money didn't stop him. His health didn't stop him. So you see, and you have to understand these three bottoms to be able to help somebody. So I have to first sit with the family and go, okay, what bottom are they likely going to hit? And then which one do we push up? You see? So that's why we do free consultations. So all Battlefield services are free. So if you come with us from a family, it's free from start to finish. We take that family, and it's weird because sometimes families, that's the stigma. If there's a stigma, it's family members. That's the people who I feel for. It's parents that have a kid that's gotten into this and don't want to tell their social network and don't want to talk about it. That's the people that I feel need relief. People need to say, yeah, my kid's a drug addict. Look at all the drugs around here. What the hell you expect? They brought him into our community now. The high school quarterback's now a drug addict. Everyone's a drug addict now. That's called an epidemic. See? So then my thing about trauma is this. If trauma causes addiction, but now we have an addiction epidemic, when did we have a trauma epidemic? But we didn't, did we? We had actually the opposite of a trauma epidemic. We had a pendulum swing in parenting where we went, it's all get what you want. Cell phones, no chores, earn this, earn that. We had an epidemic of entitlement. And I'm not talking about everyone. I'm not saying there's not the marginalized. I'm not saying there's not the traumatized. I'm not saying that doesn't. I'm saying the epidemic happened because all this new kind of drug addict came in. So I deal with the people of the epidemic. I deal with academics. I deal with kids that were in high functioning families. I deal with Bellarmine prep kids and these kind of kids that are coming from 7 older brothers and sisters that are all at West Point and becoming attorneys, and now they're having this problem because these drugs showed up. And now we have this thing where entitlement has met drugs. And when entitlement meets drugs, that's tough because what we need is responsibility to get better and accountability. But they never had that their whole life. So now it's a shock to them when I tell them they got to make a bed or they got to do something. So yeah, your brother needed family work. It can't be just him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how many of you are there? I mean, obviously, you're
Only
so
one
that-
heart.
There's only one art.
You can't, you're just one person. I mean, it sounds like you're dealing
Well,
with a lot.
first of all, Angie is an expert. She's been trained with me for 10 years, and she's an expert, and she's on the phone with families every day, and she knows how to guide them. So there's that. I have people that work for me that are growing and becoming leaders, and they're really good. And we have a really good team. So
How
our
many
family is
people are
taken
there?
care of. But there is only one.
There's only one artist.
There's one. Yeah. I don't know if you're going to be able to scale it. We don't try to scale it. You know?
I'm curious, when you meet with at least like
Yeah,
you know,
how
folks in
many-
government, what is the message? Because I mean, for me, I agree. I'm thinking the other day, I'm like, well, all this fentanyl's being pumped in here, but if we're not punishing the people that are trafficking this stuff,
Battlefield, there's
You know,
3.
There's what?
Well, she was asking, Art
We
is
have
not
4 employees
actually
at
an
Battlefield.
employee of Battlefield. He does everything for Battlefield for free.
Right, no, I understand that. So
Angie-
there's
We have
two.
4 employees at Battlefield,
There's
and then
four?
an independent now, Dalton.
Okay.
But yeah,
Oh,
Tiffany,
Dalton, yeah.
Kristen, Becky, and me.
Yeah.
The message is here. We're in an echo chamber. I can go around all day and find people that agree with me. I can. I'm always talking in an echo chamber. I can get on Brandy Cruz or Jason Rance or
Sure.
or Jonathan Cho loves us and you know, but we're constantly, the question I am stumbling with now is how to get out of the echo chamber and get real discourse with the people that are currently governing and creating these policies. And for the most part, we're having trouble getting phone calls and even getting answers. So we've reached out to Ferguson's camp over and over and over and over with zero reply ever. We just had Reichert last week who came, sat in front of the families, took an interview. I was hard on him. You know, I'm hard on everyone. So we get the moderate Democrats too. We get those, and then we get the moderates, but it's hard to get the fringes on either side. And we are being governed by the fringes.
Yeah.
And it's time for the people, and for the most part, when you talk to people in Washington, you're talking to moderate people. You're talking to people that can see both sides, that want good and want this, real bipartisan work. And so for the most part, we do. And then you find it really odd but you just can't reach the people that are, it's tough. So ours is get out of the echo chamber and change the narrative. That's what we're currently working on. So in order to change the narrative completely, we've got to speak to people that aren't usually listening to us. So that's the work, yeah.
Everything you said really resonated with me. It's like you took it out of my own mind, but I've never heard anybody say it. Like I haven't heard
Yeah.
anybody say it. What was, I'm curious, too personal, but like what was your, how did that work for you?
What was my bottom? Oh yeah. My family did this beautiful thing where it wasn't really even tough love, it was just tough. So if I'm gonna debate between which one's better, if a family's gonna approach their addict as tough and cut off everything and kick them out and not talk to them, I'd go with that one over, I still love you no matter what you're doing and that kind of thing. So my dad was very stern, and he at one point he just put me to the test and said, you use drugs one more day and we're done. I'm out of your life forever. And me and this family aren't gonna go on your ride anymore. And he looked at me and he was on his last 7 months of life. He had emphysema, he had congestive heart failure. And he looked at me and he said, there's a bedroom right there. You go get in that bedroom. I don't want to hear you whining, you complaining, nothing. You go in there, don't come out until you're sober. I ain't bringing you no Suboxone, I ain't bringing you nothing, just get in there. And he did that for me. And he did that because he loved me, and he was very hard on me, but he did it. And at 37 years old, that's why we do what we do, because we understand the enormous power family has when they use it. And we understand the counter narrative to that is that families just got to sit by and wait and wait and wait until they're ready. And that's just not true. So we've been doing this for thousands of family members, years and years we've been doing this, and we understand that what gets people sober is other people. That's what it is. We don't do it for ourselves. We can't think for ourselves. We want to do drugs, get drugs. I've had every kid that's ever entered my program, I'm talking thousands of kids, if on the doorstep they were offered a chance, do you want to come in right now, or would you like $100 and go do more drugs? They would have all took $100 and went and done more drugs. They come because somebody required it, they had to, and then you get about 60 days sober, 70 days sober, you start going, I think I could do this. The serotonin, the stuff starts coming back in your brain, you get a little reward for life, and you go, I'm ready for this to be about me now. but somebody else has to get us to that point. We're doing a video right now we're working on about accountability and saying, I can tell you, I can sit 10 kids in my program and go, hey, when you got sober, who held you accountable? Prison, the law, my mom, a cop, my PO, my sister. I know there's gonna be an answer. I've never got called from a Vegas penthouse suite and said, I'm just surrounded by cocaine and women and I just wanna be done today. I got tons of money, but I'm just tired of using drugs. Never happened. That's why they call it bottom. That's why they say somebody has to hit bottom. You're right, they have to hit bottom. But what happens when you take the bottom away? What happens when homelessness is no longer a bottom? When you cannot get caught for your crimes? What's the bottom gonna be? They've left the people with, they've took away the emotional bottom because they said it's not your fault, and they said continue to use drugs, it's fine, don't bother, you got a disorder, feed your disorder. So they've taken away guilt, they've taken away any kind of motivator of that. Then they took away the financial bottom and said, the stores are open for all the money you need. And the drugs are cheap. So now they've left people with only one bottom, death. That's the only bottom left. And we have to push up a bottom to get someone to change. I don't want people punished for their crimes that are drug addicts. I want the leverage to get them into the programs. I want to be able to say, hey, come on, man, you got this now. You see, you got 3 days sober here. I don't want outreach. I don't want to go beg drug addicts to help them when they could go steal. I want to go into the jail and go, you want to come with me or you want to stay here? Let's go. I got a nice queen bed. I got a flat screen TV. I got volleyball. I got steaks for dinner. Let's go, man. I got you. So that's what we're trying to get to. We don't want people throwing away the key and locked up in jail. We know that doesn't work. That's ridiculous. Nobody with a drug problem should be punished for having drugs. That's ridiculous. But we can use that crime to actually get them help. And it's ridiculous not to. It's like, what are you gonna do? We have a program we just exposed with, just so you guys know, King County Behavioral Health Building, 4th Avenue. You can walk in and get a bank bag. In the bank bag is a meth pipe, needles, foil, instructions on how to fold the foil. And do you know the only reason you'd have instructions on how to fold foil? That's saying we want you to get the maximum amount of smoke from that pill into your lungs. So we're gonna show you how to fold the foil so you don't lose any of it and you don't let the pill slide off. So here's how you fold foil. And we went down that building and watched hundreds and hundreds of people start their day there. And they said to me, I talked to the person who started the program, I said, what are you doing? And he said, we're helping people. And I said, how? I said, I try to get people off drugs, but it really feels like you're working against me. How are you helping people? Well, they would go steal that stuff. Well, okay, but by that logic, how are they gonna get the drugs? They're gonna have to go steal. So by your logic, we should also be providing the fentanyl. If you're gonna provide the foil, you should provide the fentanyl. And now we're talking about providing people with the most deadly substance that's ever been smoked in the history of the world. And if anyone knows, for us, if we have somebody that's used fentanyl that day and comes to our program, we put 24-hour watch on them with Narcan. And if I have a loved one and I know they did fentanyl today, I would watch them the whole time until they got it out of their system and make sure they didn't die. And our state just lets them all do it. And they're just dying. And to me, it's not anything. To me, it's virtue. It's somebody saying, I love this person so much, I will let them do what they want and die. And it's devastating. So we're working hard to counter this insanity. If you would have told me when I was a kid, when I was in active addiction, that it's okay. Hey, Art, you could just continue to use and go steal and take anything you want, and they won't arrest you. And I was at a Safeway a little while ago, and it was about 10:30 at night. I think they were closing at 11. The person, as I walked in, somebody was on one of the scooters, smoking a meth pipe, just right in the Safeway. This is in Federal Way, and at 10:30, I'm telling you the truth. This lady comes on and she goes, "Hey guys, please get done stealing what you need. We're about to close." And I'm the dumbass up there paying. I'm thinking, well, what am I paying, you know? And that's a true story.
So we need to wrap it up, but 30 seconds. Can you just tell us about your
Yes, I
event?
can. Yes.
30 seconds.
So Saturday, November 9th, it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. I know you all know people that you want to hear this message. Please bring them this night. It's in Auburn, Saturday, November 9th. You can take a flyer. Also, you can sign up on our subscribe list and get our emails, get our updates when we have in the hot seats and whatnot. All the information is here. You can just scan this and you can sign up for
By the way, if
everything.
your business buys a table, we'll put the business logo on the
Yes.
table.
Yes.
You get to promote your business. You get to
Buy a
be there.
table,
We have
bring your
500
friends.
people coming there. We're an upper, a lot of our families, are upper middle class families that use all these services. So, and a lot of families that hire lawyers.
And you asked about finances and how we make it
And
financially. This is our
psychotherapists.
biggest fundraiser of the year, so we
You
rely
got a
heavily
job
on
for
this.
sure.
So we appreciate
I'll
all the
never let
support.
you out of work.
Two really major fundraisers. One's a 5K run in May, and then it's our live auction.
This is the one that gets us through the year. This is the one that's gonna allow us to hire more employees, which we really need right now. We're going big on this event, so please come and support it. Thank you.
And I'd say the exciting thing too is that,
Is there a hotel?
Yes.
Yeah, Muckleshoots. There's
Yeah,
a-
Muckleshoot Casino Event Center. It's a beautiful, remodeled.
The other one, not to this one.
This is the biggest and the best. Muckleshoot.
So besides like us going to one of these events and, supporting in that way, I would assume that a lot of the help that you have is all qualified help. Like, is there any volunteer work that you guys
Is there any volunteer?
can have?
Our volunteer work is really our events, helping with our events and the auction, the 5K.
Yeah.
That's our big things.
Okay.
Our solution groups, we have the guys in recovery, we have access to them.
But
They
what
help
we
set
really
up.
need is if you hear anyone say my kid's struggling with
Yeah.
addiction, my brother,
Yeah.
that's what we want, those
Sure.
type of referrals.
Yeah.
And,
Everybody take a flyer, it tells
we
you.
find it, it's hard for us because we know our ability to help.
Yeah.
And we know the struggle families have in picking up the phone and calling us. But we know if they call, their life's gonna change.
I would say also that we help throughout wherever you are in the journey. And so Nick, for your family, we do have a Beyond the Battle group
Oh,
for those who are beyond bottom.
Yeah.
And I will admit it is unfortunately one of our largest growing
Yeah.
groups. And so, but also 10 years in doing this, Art and Angie are now helping families even before drugs get involved. Families are recognizing the opportunity to, be preventative. And so they are helping even as young as 14. And so just recognizing again, wherever anyone is along the journey. So it's one of these things where I would say, come and see. And sometimes it's hard to describe. I mean, what Art just did in Art, it's hard to describe when people are feeling all the feels and what it must be like for a parent to be watching their child and not feel like, you feel powerless and you don't know what to do. And then you're embarrassed and you're ashamed. You don't want to let your friends know this is what's going on in my family. So again, we're here to help. And so just come and see is probably the best thing that we can say.
And that it would include families whose child is in active addiction.
Sure.
They may not come to the program. Just like Art said, he meets most of the families before the kids are even involved. So if they have somebody in their family in active addiction, they need to get a strategy by going to these meetings so that when the opportunity arises to do something for that addict, and they're ready, rather than.
I could also
And our
probably-
meetings are in Kent, and they're listed here.
I could also probably tell a family if they came and they asked me if their kid was gonna be an addict, I could tell them yes or no.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming. We can carry on this conversation, but we need to get up and clean.
My wife
But,
also signed
but,
8 years ago.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just
thank you.
hard
And-
besides you. It's much my parents, still going through all of it, right?
Right.
Trauma's real and it's every day.
Yeah.
So I have one last thing.
Sucks.
One last thing. So, I made this pumpkin arrangement, and in honor of all you, since we don't have, funds to like contribute to it, but we would just like to say thank you very
that's
much,
very
and
sweet.
maybe you
Thank
could put this in
you.
your office or
Yes,
share with your
yes.
crew,
Yes,
and we wish you
will.
guys
We'll
all the
decorate our little
best.
meeting space with it.
Yeah.
It'll be next to him when he speaks on the next video. So you all
And you'll
That's
recognize it.
perfect. That's perfect.
We do
Yes,
have
thank you.
another great event. I was telling Chad, just because it kind of mentioned, we have one of our alum from the program who we are kind of explaining. She went from homeless to homeowner to home seller now. She's a real estate agent. She's going to be sharing her story. Wow. And so another opportunity if you want to
She works for
connect with
Tribeca.
us.
You know what Tribeca is? My friend Jeff Costello.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
So-
works with him. He took a lot of our, yeah.
Yeah,